Good afternoon to everybody. Today we have the opportunity to have here Maurizio Parenzan. Maurizio is an engineer with more than 25 years of experience in corporate environment. Thank you so much, Maurizio, to be here.
Hi, thanks for the invitation, Michael.
So Maurizio, as I said before, is an engineer, but also now he has a YouTube channel. So I kindly ask you, Maurizio, if you can please introduce yourself, tell us what did you study, where did you study, where did you work, and what are you doing now, please.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. So I will try to be as concise as possible. So basically, I'm Maurizio Parenzan. I was born in 1971, so I think much older than the average of your audience. As background, as you mentioned, I have a master's degree in electrical engineering from Politecnico di Bari. It was 1998, so again, last century. And as a professional path, I had quite a diversified journey because I started working in Rome in a petroleum refinery. And I didn't start with a technical role. I started with procurement because at that period I was interested in energy management, and there was the liberalization of utilities market. So I started entering in a procurement office to take care of first gas and then gas and electricity contracts. After that, I moved to maintenance engineering,
Okay.
and then I start changing a lot because after that I moved to a company that it's called Consip in Italy. It's the centralized procurement company for the government. And then I decided to start my career abroad. So I start first with the UK. So I moved to Bristol to work with Orange. Then I went to Brussels in 2005 and 2006, and I worked with Toyota in Toyota Motor Europe. Then I come back to Italy, and I've been with American Express for a couple of years as director for facility management for and real estate for Italy and Spain. And then I moved to Switzerland. I've been 8 years with Novartis in different roles all around real estate facility management for production sites with a global responsibility. So basically, the background is in electrical engineering, but my work has been across different functions and different roles. And now, since 3 years now, I left the corporate environment and I'm working as a career strategist focusing on engineers. So basically, my job, my mission now is to help colleagues, engineers, to unlock their career and to take control back of their professional future.
Thank you. This is very interesting. And I would like to continue to discuss about your activity that you are doing now. So you are helping a young engineer to improve their career. So the first question that I have for you is that do you think that to do a great career is more a problem of optimization, I mean to be the best in a certain field, or it is a problem of design? To find the right path to improve and doing the right steps?
Good questions. I would say that it's a mix of the two, because the first point is the design, because you need to define what is a great career for you. What I strongly recommend is to stay far away from stereotype of, the good career is if you are a junior, senior, manager, this is this, you go on the corporate ladder and so on. No, if you have different priorities in your life, you need to find what is the right balance for you. What I always say is that you need to treat your career as a project. As engineers, we are very good in managing projects. That's our job. We fix problems. We do everything in our companies. But then when it comes to our life, we forgot all the best practices. And when we think about career, usually we take our CV, we get the dust off, and then we start spamming it worldwide. No, it's a project. So it's important that first you define what are your priorities, then what are the constraints, what you can put on the table as capabilities, and then based on that, you create your strategy that is made of multiple things, assets, and so on. And the key element, and this is where it matches with the other part, is that, of course, you need to have competencies and skills to ensure that what you aim for, it's something that you can achieve, and you need to have very clear path to achieve it. So it's important to, let's say, consider other things like soft skills or so on, but you need to have your core competencies. The point, the reason why I think we often miss these things, it's exactly because we miss the first step. Designing, understanding what is important for us, what is achievable, what is available in the market. I see people that they start applying for positions without studying the market, without understanding what are the job roles, without studying companies and so on. This is a very fast track for professional suicide. And to be clear, you will get a job because at the end of the day, we are engineers. So luckily, we are in the best quarter as balance between opportunities offer. But the key element is that if you don't do something that is sustainable for you, quite likely you will find yourself in a company, a role, or in a city, or in a country that it's not the ideal for you. And then we see very often you start something, and after 6 months, you realize that you are in the wrong place, and then double frustration because you have to go back in the market and so on. So it's important to mix the two things. You have to do a very accurate planning phase and very strong and structured execution.
Yeah, because a thing that I saw watching your video is that there isn't a univocal way to choose the right career, but it's something that is also personal because in your theory is that to choose the right career is like a multidimensional assessment
Yeah.
where it's not the only point is not only the financial, the economical one, but there are many other topics like, for example, the private aspect, also the geographic aspect. So my question is, for you, what are the main aspects that an engineer should consider when they decide to do a next step in his career?
Okay, good points. The first is when you plan your next step, you need at least to start planning your
Mhm.
end step plus one or two. No,
Yeah.
it's a strategy. So it's not just a tactical action or a fine tuning or some adjustment. So you need to know exactly, or at least roughly, what you want in 5 years from now. So when I'm working with people today, I would say, Michael, we need to work on Michael 2030. So it's not important what's just the immediate next step, but where you want to go, because this is where you decide what kind of trajectory you need to create to be sure that whatever you do is directionally right. Okay. So the key element is first to be very clear in what they call self-awareness. As you mentioned, I identified 4 pillars: as a personal point of view, as a family point of view, financial and professional point of view, what you want today. If you don't clarify these things, quite likely you are working only on a subset of information. And something unsustainable is typically something that is not matching your priorities, what you like, or the need of your family or so on. You cannot ignore the difference if you are single, if you have family, you have kids, if your parents are young, they are sick or whatever. These things need to be all considered to get something that is absolutely sustainable. And the other key element is really to be clear on what you can put on the table. And here we need also to be very careful. As engineers, we are quite versatile, no? And we are quite smart, let's say it. So it's quite unlikely that there is something that we cannot do. Okay, of course, if you want to be a physician, surgery, no. But overall, in a corporate, wherever we sit, in a couple of months, we will be absolutely able to do the job. So the point is not what we can do, but it's also what we want to do.
Yeah.
So maybe we can do 10 things. We did 10 things in our journey, but it doesn't mean that we have to do this in the future. Maybe across these 5 things, among these, there are 3 things that I really like, others that I was struggling. So it's important that I identify them and then I start building on that. And that's where you create a really strategy. What I always say, you need to create your own operational window. No, I want to attack this kind of companies for this kind of roles in this kind of geography. When you have this clear, then it will be much easier to start working on this because you will start ignoring all the rest.
Yeah, yeah, it's clear, it's clear. And I have a question on this topic, and is do you have suggestion to understand to how create a trade-off between aspect of different field of your life? So maybe it's not easy compare something that is related to the private aspect with also with the geographical one, also with the skill that you want to learn, because it's not obvious for me to understand how to find the right trade-off, what I'm able to where I want to go if I have to lose something in another field.
Okay, yeah, that's that's a good point because it's crossing a lot of very bad suggestions that I see online. So what is really terrible when I see people that they think they can approach career decisions or also life as if it's an algorithm, no? When I see people, oh, prepare the decision tree, put a value across decision zero, one, pi, yes, these are really bullshits. Why? Because it's not that you are evaluating, I will do a role as a maintenance engineer in a company, and then I have to compare it with the pizza maker in Nagoya.
Yeah,
No, this is where you will find very different values. But if it's a matter of this role in this company or this different role in the same kind of company, if you start putting these numbers, you will at the end compare 4.7 versus 4.5. And trust me, that's not where you want to be to take a decision that will affect your life for the next years. So what I really recommend is to be very honest and transparent with yourself. When you do this kind of assessment that takes weeks, so evaluating this kind of pillars, it's not I write something down in half an hour and then I jump on updating the CV. This is something that really requires times, and you need to consider multiple things. And when you are very honest at the end, you really understand what you are looking for. And you need also to be transparent with yourself. I mean, if it's a matter of, in this period of my life, I feel tired, and then I want to be hovering somewhere, I don't want to push and well, that's absolutely fine. If today my goal is just money, I want money, go for it, but call it with the right name. One of the example is usually when I talk with people and they start saying, I want a role with more responsibility, more visibility. For me, it's important to have this. And I say, okay, let's say that there is a role as director, but in a third world country, and this role of director is paid 20,000 euros. Then you are not interested because you are not really interested in the role as a job title. You are interested in the financial consequence of that role. So be honest, tackle this one and work on this. You know that not often, almost always, what will affect your salary will be 80% geography. It's much more disruptive to move to a country with high salaries than to move left and right in the same low salary country between two or three companies and so on. So that's where you need to be very clear. And when you do this kind of analysis, you will immediately find out what is really shocking or what is a haha moment in one dimension or in the other. So that's when it's a matter of trade-off, you should start asking why I'm in a position where I have to do a trade-off. Maybe I'm putting something in contrast that shouldn't be there. Maybe there is also another option. So that's this is the part where you really cannot standardize the approach when we talk about this first self-awareness. You can standardize the process, not the kind of question, the kind of way you put everything together, the 5-10 years plan, the 2 years. But the answer for this is really personal, while for the other part, it's more structure when we talk about the pure professional part.
Yes, clear, clear. And now that you have the opportunity to work with the young engineers, so a different generation from your generation, do you see some difference between the university system and at the same time also the corporate environment, how it's changed in the last 25 years? For example, I believe that now a team that is much more important are all the aspects correlated to the psychological well-being of the employer, or also, for example, the university are starting to be more international. Many courses are in English, so many students have the possibility to travel more in a different country. Do you see some difference from the new generation of engineer, their preparation compared to you and your colleague of your same age?
Okay, this is an interesting point because usually when we talk about generations, often we start with clash of generation. I'm 54,
Mhm.
and I tell you that I met on sites engineers that were 10, 15 years older than me,
Okay.
and they came with this stereotype of at my time in the
Yeah.
university it was much difficult, we studied
Mhm.
better, so
Right.
on. So this is a never ending story of my generation is better the following, and these are of course useless things. But when we talk about differences, for sure there are. I mean, the tools are different, the speed of things are different. Often the need to be more vertical is different because exactly we have now tools where you can find things. I started working basically without internet, without email and so on. It was just the beginning. So the way to work was completely different. Today, so when I work, I usually work with people with a couple of years of experience.
Yeah.
But what I've seen when I was in the company and there were these new people coming is that there are much more opportunities. And then there is also connected to this the risk of missing these opportunities. Guys, if today you are in the university
Smart.
and you don't speak English, you are missing something. I mean, 40 years ago, to study English, you needed
Okay.
to buy the DVD with the subtitle, the booklet with the translation, transcript, and these things. Today, if you don't know English, it's because you actively refused to learn English. Okay. And an engineer without English is half an engineer, but this applies to all kinds of professionals. So the key suggestion is really take all opportunities that you currently have around you. I'm talking about learning online. I'm talking about LinkedIn, pushing a lot on LinkedIn. This is something that I didn't do because there was no LinkedIn when I was at university, but missing the opportunity to connect with professors, with the parents of your colleagues, with some students are already on internet. That's absolutely the best investment on LinkedIn. Sorry, the best investment they can do. So there are so many opportunities, and they must be taken. Then what happens with the different generation at corporate level in the office? This is something very interesting to deal with and to manage because, of course, there are different ways to work. I would say don't under-evaluate in both directions the suggestion and the learning point, because it's
Mhm.
quite easy to we came and everyone thinks that the knowledge around his generation and his way to think is the right one.
Yeah.
There is
Yes. Right.
always, it's so wrong that we always did like
No
this.
way.
Yes, okay, but you cannot not even have in a very, for instance, in industry that are very structured with a heavy governance, you cannot even have that everyone comes the first day and starts saying what's the new way to do things. I mean, there is a balance depending on how a startup works, is not how a corporate works. You don't want to fly in planes
Yeah.
that are built based on the design decided 2 weeks ago by someone with a new innovative ideas. There are different levels of, but the way to deal with this coexistence of different generation, because it's not just the young and the middle, there is also the middle and the oldest. It's really to keep both bidirectional communication open, because there is a lot. I remember there was this guy when I was in Basel. He came from UK, and I was shocked by the fact that we were talking about something. I was sharing some
Yeah.
information, and then I realized that at the same time he was just checking on the mobile, go deeper, because it's no more I own this know-how. It's a matter of this know-how. It's half second
Yeah.
distance
Okay.
from me today, and that's a good opportunity to exchange in both directions.
Yeah, and do you think that there is also a difference between the Italian university system and the university system in other countries? Because, for example, something that can change is also how the university are connected with the industry, and also the opportunity that the university are able to generate.
Oh yeah, so there are so many differences. What you said is so true. I mean, the connection between, in particular, when we talk about our engineering world, a university with connection to the working environment with companies and so on has much more opportunities to deliver to the students. But this applies also in the same country if you are in the south or in the north or in
Yeah,
different areas where in this area there are tons of companies you can work with. There are partnership with companies, or you stay in a university where it's just a matter of theory, analysis, 1, 2, 3, and so on. This makes already a huge difference. And for instance, today the Politecnico di Bari is so great. The professor Francesco Cupertino did so many great things in the last years. But I can tell you, when I was there in the 1990s, there was almost zero connection with companies. I was interested in doing the Erasmus. There was nothing. You have to spend months finding the modules and everything. At the end, I was supposed to go to the Imperial College. Then I canceled it because it was much better to do it quicker in the university. And so this for sure makes a huge difference. It's also true that there are universities that are more oriented to practical things versus theoretical things. Which one is right, which one is wrong? This is a useless fight,
yeah,
okay?
yeah,
Because I often read comments also on LinkedIn articles. We are much better because we have a stronger theoretical preparation. Okay, when I went abroad and 95% of my colleagues were not Italian, trust me, they were not that bad. Okay.
okay.
Also, if we know much better some
About-
theory, it could help in some things, but in the rest of the world, they are not waiting for us. And more in the rest of the world, they are much more used to, let's say, English and so on. So, and usually after the 3 years, they are already able to work. And in Italy, the bachelor is seen as a half degree. And this is also where we lose competitiveness, and that's a pity, because 21 they start working. We start working at 25, and then you already have a gap. And so there are pros and cons. So that's why I say, if you are interested in an international career, opportunities and whatever, do it as soon as possible. Either studying abroad, it's not that expensive in some conditions, or doing Erasmus, doing the project thesis abroad, or start working immediately after university abroad. If it's part of your project, don't delay it. There is absolutely no reason to do it.
Yeah, 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 I completely agree with you. And for example, I think that during the university, I didn't give enough importance was the concept of networking. Now I change a lot my point of view when I start to work, and I understood how it's important to create connection and also the value that the people can bring to me. So, what is your point of view about networking and how to create a good networking?
So networking is crucial.
Mhm.
Uh, in other areas, there is this way to say your network is your net worth. No, and it's absolutely true in the professional environment. And the key element here is start building network as soon as possible. The worst thing that you can do is try to build network when you are in a need of network. These people with 25 connection on LinkedIn, then they start connecting because they are looking for a job, and then they send you the connection with, can you help me here, left and right? No way. This is absolutely a dead lane. The point is, start as soon as possible. For the students today, there are also so many opportunities today to do, let's say, the association, the competition in university, the raising team, all this public speaking, Toastmaster, all these things are absolutely great opportunities to start connecting with other people. And since today, the social, I'm talking about professional social, so LinkedIn, these are a great opportunity to start existing, to start listening, learning, and connecting with people. You can really start with the parents of your friends, with your professors, with people in the companies you are connecting with during the period of projects and so on. Start somewhere, but start as soon as possible. Don't wait to be with a degree, and so as soon as possible, and then it will come back as a very good investment with an excellent return on investment.
Yeah. And do you suggest any kind of books about this topic correlated to the career that maybe you think can bring a value?
So in general, books on careers, my book will will be out during this year, so it's still too early. But I strongly recommend, for instance, the book from Michael Watkins. He has two great books. The first is The First 90 Days. This is the Bible for someone who start working with something, so with the company.
Yeah.
It's really about what is the best way to start, and it talks about multiple competencies, skills that usually you learn during a long journey, but they are very, very well organized. Michael Watkins is really a must. He did this one, then Your Next Move, but this is mostly for people with some experience. And now he wrote a book about strategic thinking. But the first 90 days is really a must. Then there are books like Adrian Cho, The Career Crossroad. Davide Cervellini wrote an excellent book, Office of Cards. These are really books that I would recommend, but the other point is you can find a lot of information for sure in... So when we talk about contents about career, one warning: be careful who you are following. So
Yeah.
there are tons of career coaches out there. Check their LinkedIn. So I will never take career advice from people who didn't work in companies.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is not a structured work. No? So I can wake up, take a coaching certificate, and start calling myself career coach. No way. In my opinion, when you start listening or reading something, check these people profile. If you see that they've been 10, 15, 20 years in a job, in a corporate environment, then they can talk about career suggestions. Otherwise, they're just very good at communication, and that's not something I would recommend to refer to. But spending time on LinkedIn, it's something with a very good return.
Yeah, and I think that I'm curious about is that I want to know if your career as content creator now has an impact also as your career as an engineer. For example, now maybe doing some activity on YouTube helped you to create a new network that maybe can be helpful for you also for a future if you decide to change your career again and return in the corporate environment, or also maybe helped you to learn new things, to interface with a different generation, to use new tools, new software, also for the video call, for the meeting, and so on.
Yeah, this is part, of something that it's a non-linear career. I mean, the idea of a linear career, you start with a role, then you step. This is something who died maybe in 1960s, 1970s. This already didn't exist when I started working in late 90s. And here is where you really work to build your multiple, it's, let's call it career portfolio. This is a concept very well explained on LinkedIn by Ani Filipova. She's very good on this. And basically the point is that you have to build on different tables because you never know where the next opportunity will come. So I didn't start as a I don't call myself a content creator. For me, the content creation is functional for my business as career
Yeah.
strategist. No, of course, the lead generation starts from contents, but the point is that, of course, start working, start expanding. That's also the reason why now I start creating contents in English to expand the audience and so on. This is where, of course, you start creating opportunities. And I walk the talk. So I apply to myself this career strategy principle in this moment of my life, based on my personal priorities. I'm not aiming to a corporate role any longer because I have other kind of priorities. So I'm building a lifestyle based on these other priorities. Maybe in 5-7 years, the situation will be different, and then I will reapply this mechanism, this process to put a new preference, a new priority. But for sure, this is one great opportunity to build something like having a YouTube channel, as in your case, a newsletter or so on, helps to it helps you to exist in the professional world. This is where you need to exist as someone who is contributing. And that's also very useful because, for instance, in LinkedIn, I think that less than 3% of people on LinkedIn are actively contributing in writing things, commenting, or so on. So it's very easy to start showing up. Of course, it's LinkedIn, so we don't give a shit what you had for dinner when you went for holidays. Also, if there are someone doing it, but okay, who cares? You just put not interested, you block them, and you clean up your feed. But it's really an opportunity because in the long term, this is where, as you said, opportunities will come. You start connecting with people start recognizing you, then you get invitation to have a speech, lessons with institutions or so on. And that's where you build your network again, where other opportunities can came from.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I have a last question for you. I thank you for your time, is that there is something that would you like to tell us about your future as career strategy, as also about your YouTube channel. For example, I think that you told me that you are planning for the next content that they will be all in English. I don't know if you have something that do you want to share with us that we
Yeah, no, for sure. This is a period where I'm very busy to reorganize the setup of my business. I'm reorganizing the core offer, so it's the masterclass plus individual session of mentoring, and I want create a line of contents, an amount of contents with high value, because my mission is really to avoid generation of engineers the avoidable career pains. So there are a couple of things that when you understand them, when you start applying them, you can really speed up the career journey. And in particular, you can avoid something that usually you need just the experience to avoid them. Yeah, I always say that I share medals and scars because there are so many things happening in 25 years of career. And what I will do now is exactly in English, because first, it allows me to reach more people. Second, English is the language for engineering and for corporate career. And so if you are an engineer in Italy and English is a barrier, then it's your problem. Yeah, that's actually maybe also a stimulus to start working on it. As I mentioned, I'm working on a book, and this is for me really a way to, at certain age, you start also giving back. So creating a business, giving back a lot of learning. It's an interesting combo where I can get a win-win situation.
Okay, Maurizio, thank you so much for your time. I invite everybody to subscribe to your channel and to follow you on YouTube and LinkedIn. So, Maurizio,
Perfect.
thanks again.
Thanks for the opportunity. It was a very interesting and whatever your audience needs, they can easily find me on LinkedIn. That's the best channel.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.